Thank you so much. And it really is an honor to be here today. I had a chance to listen to that last panel. It queued everything up perfectly. Where do I begin? I mean, let's start with dreaming big. I love that word because I think the American dream is alive and well. So you heard I am chair of America 250. America 250 is the congressional commission established by legislation in 2016 that is charged with planning the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. This will absolutely be the largest, most comprehensive and inclusive commemoration and celebration this country has ever seen. But we have our work ahead of us. And certainly what you heard today, I love what was said, Carol, Jennifer, Red Cross. Thank you so much. In fact, you probably, I don't know if you know this or not, but actually Carol and Jennifer are actually partners with us at America 250 for something I'll be talking about called America Gives. But what we are trying to accomplish, and just to give a little bit more background, this commission is a 24-member commission, 16 private citizens, 8 members of Congress, all appointed by the House and Senate majority and minority leaders. So we are bipartisan. I like to say we're all partisan, nonpartisan. And we've hit the ground running, if you haven't heard. I was appointed by Senator Schumer in 2018 onto this commission. I was appointed by President Biden as chair 2 years ago. And in the last 2 years, almost exactly 2 years since my first meeting as chair, hopefully you have heard that we have hit the ground running and we have an enormous amount of programming already established. And so for me, this isn't just about a fireworks show in 2026 on July 4th. This is a journey, and it's a journey that perhaps our country has never been through before in terms of what it means to be the oldest democracy in the world. And more importantly, what do we want to be 250 years from now? Now, I think 250 years goes like that. I don't think it's that long. I mean, think about it this way. That is, it's 83.3 years, right? So that's 3 human lives away. That isn't that far. So I hope I got that math right. I remember the bicentennial like it was yesterday. Who remembers the bicentennial 19? Thank you. All right, so I know our ages. So I was almost 11 years old at the time. I was a 5th grader, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember taking a field trip to the Freedom Train at the Oakland Amtrak station. I remember seeing on our black and white TV the tall ships coming through the New York and Boston harbors. I still have my bicentennial quarter from 1976. In fact, it's with me. As an 11-year-old girl, 25 cents was my life savings. But what I remember most about that evening, I mean, look, my parents came from Mexico to the United States in 1958. They came to Hayward, California, where I was born and raised in the Bay Area, what is now Silicon Valley, because my dad was a seasonal migrant worker at the Hunt's Tomato Factory there in Hayward. Now, my mom ended up raising all 9 of us as a single parent, somehow sent all 9 of us off to college. So I am the American dream. My kids are the American dream. And what I remember on July 4th, 1976, is it was a cloudy night in Hayward, California, but those fireworks were never brighter. I remember thinking to myself that the world was my oyster. I remember thinking to myself that anything was possible. If my parents can leave everything behind and come to this great nation for this land of opportunity, that's exactly what I felt on that night. That's exactly what I want my kids to feel. We all know this next generation of millennials and post-millennials, you're talking about the future. What do they feel? They feel cynicism. They don't trust institutions. They don't see their future. And that's why, in my opinion, this is as much about the future as it is the past. And most of our programming actually focuses on this next generation of leadership. So in my first year of chair, we got our house in order, if you will, and we started focusing on programming. I am thrilled to say that this last March, the full commission unanimously approved our programming. Our playbook is now in place. We launched officially into the public domain last July 4th with an initiative called America's Invitation. We launched in the great state of Wisconsin intentionally. Nice purple state. This is not about DC. This is not just about Philadelphia. It is from Guam to Alaska, Fairbanks to Philadelphia and everything in between. It has to feel grassroots. It has to feel community driven. It has to feel like everyone's commemoration and celebration. So we launched America's Invitation, which is exactly that, inviting the American public to take this journey with us. We launched with Major League Baseball at the Milwaukee Brewers against the Chicago Cubs game. Baseball, hot dogs, and apple pie is kind of this 3-year count up to 2026. It's a video portal. You can go on there now. You can submit your video of your memories, your family recipe, maybe your suggestions for 2026. That is active and alive. The second big initiative that we launched this last March is called America's Field Trip. America's Field Trip is a national student competition for grades 3 through 12, asking the question, what does America mean to you? Whether by video, whether by essay, whether by artwork. We received thousands of submissions in a 3-month period. Very interesting how the submissions came through. So it was either through schools or parents. Ready for this? Almost exactly half the submissions came from schools, the other half from parents. Who would have thought that, right? Whether you're homeschooled or private school or faith-based, whatever it is, we all know that we are now a different type of country. We communicate differently, and so we have to respond to that. So we were thrilled to get those submissions. And here's the beauty of America's Field Trip. This is the beauty of having a commission that also includes our federal agencies. So those award recipients, 75 in this first round, got to choose from a series of backstage experiences, most of which never been offered to the public before. So, for example, I went on the field trips with some of these kids this summer. It wasn't just a tour of the Statue of Liberty. We took a private National Park Service boat from Manhattan Island to Liberty Island. We went up to the Crown, which usually doesn't happen. We took the private boat to Ellis Island, where these kids and their parents or chaperones got to walk through Ellis Island when no one else was there, to walk in the shoes that millions of people who also were pursuing their American dreams also walked through. We spent lunch hosted by the CEO of BNY Mellon, Robin Vince, and they also showed us the markets room, the trading floor, the cybersecurity command center. We ended the day at the New York Federal Reserve getting an overview of monetary policy and getting down into the vault, the deep storage of the Federal Reserve, where our gold is, by the way. So these kids, if you can imagine what they were feeling, right? For many of them, they probably never thought about a career in finance. They probably never thought about a career in cybersecurity. They probably never thought about a career in public service at the Federal Reserve. Their eyes were open. Many of them got on a plane for the very first time. Many of them left their states for the very first time. And so the beauty of America's Field Trip is it really connects the dots between thinking about what America means to this next generation, and also showcasing America's national treasures and rediscovering our country all over again through history and again through the future. I'll never forget one young girl came up to me after the end of the day in New York, and she said, "I feel like I won the golden ticket, but this is better than Willy Wonka." How beautiful is that? I can talk about America's Field Trip all day long. But we also launched something very special this last July 4th called Our American Story. Our American Story is intended to be the largest oral history project in our country. And we are working closely with museums, historical institutions, libraries, etc., to make sure that people can already start telling their story now, right? You can walk in today to the National Museum of African American History. You can walk to the Robert Smith Gallery and already record your story. Isn't that amazing? But in addition to that, what we also launched is a nomination process. You can go online at america250.org and you can already nominate whose story you think should be preserved in perpetuity at the Library of Congress. That is for this whole next year, and next July 4th, 2025, we are on the road. We are hitting every single part of our country, all 56 states, territories, and DC, of course, and making sure that we get to unbury that treasure, tell the stories that have never been told before, capture those stories through this nomination process, go to the Deep South, go to rural America, go to tribal nations, go to farmlands, go to faith-based communities, go across the country, and hopefully start a movement that, again, keeps us going long beyond 2026. But what I'm really here to talk about is one of my favorite programs called America Gives. And this is all relevant to you. So America Gives is a national campaign where we are leading up to making 2026 the largest year of volunteer service ever recorded by one country. It, it has never happened before. And here's the thing. I mean, look, we don't want to recreate the wheel. Points of Light is our national resource partner on volunteer activities. We want to make sure that we are the aggregator, the convener, the facilitator of all the great work that already happens in this room and beyond. So using the 2 federally recognized days of service, now we all think about giving back, we think about Giving Tuesday, we think about the holidays, which is fabulous. But we want to make giving back a year-round effort by focusing on those 2 federally recognized days of service. So MLK in January, we all know that one, right? What's the second federally recognized day of service? Thank you. My goodness, most people actually don't know that. 9/11 is the second federally recognized day of service, obviously in September, and then leading up to the holidays. So I was hearing a little bit about, how do we make this a family activity? Look, that is our goal, right? So Mike, anyone who had high school kids, right? Most kids have to do community service in order to graduate from high school, right? How do we aggregate those numbers? And more importantly, how do we get the private sector involved in this? So my kids, by the way, I raised them in Bethesda, Maryland. They did their volunteer service at a Wider Circle in Rockville. I took them there every time they had to do it. Why didn't I do it with them? There's no good answer. Absolutely none. We are encouraging employers to give 1 day, 1 week, private sector, public sector, it doesn't matter, but do it as a family activity. How important is that for all of us to think about this as a lifestyle, right? And you're right, culture is very hard to change, and consumer behavior in general is very hard to change, except for when there's a shock to the system. The pandemic changed everything, right? That was our big shock, right? That's when you saw a lot of things changing. This is our opportunity to create those moments of connection that we are missing. What you will find about what we're doing, it's very physical, it's very interactive, and it's very much about thinking about others and connecting the dots across the board. And if you think about a millennial and post-millennial, anyone born in the mid-90s or later, right? What is their sense of connection? What is your sense of physical interaction? It's very, very different. But what happens when you actually touch something, the tangible, right? Your brain synapses go in a different direction. You're now in that third dimension where you can actually feel. So you'll find that a lot of what we're doing is trying to find that interactive connection, those physical moments of connection that will make a difference in their lives, right? So if you think about them, anyone born in the mid-90s or later basically grew up with the internet, unfortunately, or fortunately, right? So in many ways, they're a lot smarter than we are at the same ages, but at the same time, they are kind of missing a lot in their world that perhaps we grew up with that is very, very different, right? What do kids collect these days? When we grew up, it was trading cards, coins, stamps. I collected gum wrappers and made chains out of them. What do they collect these days? They collect likes and followers, maybe video games, I don't know. But again, bringing them back to those moments together of shared experiences is what you're going to find in what we're trying to accomplish. So America Gives is this. We want to be, again, that aggregator, that convener, that facilitator of getting those hours recorded, right? So I'll give you a great example. So I met with Fidelity. I'm on the board of Fidelity Charitable. I met with Big Fidelity, fidelity.com. I met with JP Morgan. Both of them have 2 of the largest employee volunteer programs in the country. Fidelity uses Points of Light as their facilitator for outsourcing their volunteer activities. JP Morgan does it in-house. I asked them the question separately. Has anyone approached you about how your volunteer efforts fit into the bigger volunteer efforts of this country as a whole with all these wonderful, fabulous volunteer organizations who are already out there? They said no one's ever asked them that question. So this is our responsibility collectively. I invite all of you to take this journey with us of how those hours will be aggregated, how we will count up to 2026. Because what is happening in 2026 in addition to the 250th? What else on a global platform? The World Cup, I heard somewhere. The World Cup, thank you. Yes, there's your global audience. What else is happening in the US of global significance 2 years later? The Olympics in 2028. So the eyes of the world are going to be watching the US for 2 years for 3 historical milestones that are all converging pretty much at once, right? So as we start aggregating these hours, let's say the clock starts ticking January 1, 2026. We end on December 31st, 2026 with the Guinness World of World Records of most hours ever aggregated by one country. Then what happens? China, Russia, India, go beat our record in 2027 because we're coming back in 2028 with the Olympics here. We're going to do it all over again and keep the momentum going. So I say to all of you, we invite all of you to take this journey with us. We are working on the infrastructure as we speak. We're working with Points of Light. We're working with America. We're working with Peace Corps. We're working with whoever wants to take this journey with us. Let's get our kids motivated to give back all over again. And with that, I'm going to end with our specific video about America Gives.
After 248 years, you could say, I've seen some things. Building a democracy from scratch isn't easy, or being home to hundreds of millions from everywhere on Earth. Fact is, there have been challenges since the very beginning. Uphill battles, setbacks, and injustices. But you know, Americans, we got grit. We fight for what we need. And what's right. What we want for the next generation. We take care of each other when it gets rough. We inspire each other. Innovate together. Get the job done. And create so much opportunity. Heck, that's probably why folks have been inspired to come here for so long. And now, we've got a pretty big anniversary coming up, the big 250. In honor of that, we invite you to add your story to our American story. We're coming to every state, to cities, large and small, and even just down the road a piece. We're coming to hear from the people who make our communities special, unique, home. The American story is all around us, and we need your help to find the people that make that story come alive, to discover the folks of all walks of life who make us America. So nominate someone you know, and we'll come record their story and tell it to the nation. Your story is the American story. And together we'll build our American story.
If I can correct one thing, that was actually our American Story video, not our America Gives video. But you will see, obviously, the nature of what we're trying to accomplish here. We are not shying away from our history. We are embracing every facet of our history. Again, something that we as a country have never really done before on this journey. And what we plan on doing moving forward, being as authentic as possible, as Main Street as possible, and making this feel like everyone's commemoration and celebration. And we think America Gives and volunteering and giving back to the values in which our country, and recognizing the values in which our country were founded through service, is going to get us there. So thank you very, very much.